ahead. My name is Tripti, and I'm very excited to share this presentation with you all. This webinars give you a brief overview of what prompts are, why we need them, and what are the different types and levels of prompts, and which we use in the clinical setting with the kids. When we say that our child is doing the ABA therapy, what kind of, while teaching the child, we uses the prompt. So while going to this seminar, we'll get to know what are the different types of prompts available, why do we use them, and what is the use of them. The most important part of using prompt is to choose the right prompt for the right skill at the right time with the right way. And in the very right moment, you should start fading this off. Okay? Because the more you take to fade this off, the more difficult it becomes to fade it off. The earlier, the sooner, the earlier, the better. We shall also learn what are the ways to do prompt fading. So last time, yesterday, because there was so much of going on, I could not touch this part much for the prompt fading. I have just given them the little overview, but I couldn't, explain it to the point which I would have done. I had intended to do. And we shall also discuss the components of datasheet if the time allows us, because it takes a little longer to discuss the datasheets, which becomes a quite technical part. Okay, so let's go ahead and just to give why my credential, why I am here, who am I to tell you all this. I'm a BCAPA, and moreover, I have been to the both side of this journey. So I have a son who has autism. So I was a parent before I became the professional, and I understand like how difficult it is and how overwhelming it is with the parents in the initial years when you struggle. Parentship itself is parenthood is a quite a challenging task, and when it comes to the child with the diagnosis, it's a roller coaster for each of us, and it becomes very frustrating that you are not able to help or understand your child. You want to do a lot with your son or daughter, but you feel so helpless. Even with the best of your intentions, it's so difficult to help them out with all this diagnosis, and you yourself is too new to understand all this autism. Moreover, we take them to therapies, and we do see they are learning in the therapies. But many times when we bring them home, we do not see that they are showing the same skill to us. Moreover, many things which they are doing in the clinical settings, they do not make any difference in our lives. So my child is still having the challenges which he was having before. And even as a family, I'm still facing those challenges which I had before. So even with those therapies, we do see lot many videos, we do see lot many data sheets or the target sheets has been filled up, but still these are not meaningful because they haven't made any substantial or any difference to our life, right? And many times it happens that we choose, first of all, the goals which has been chosen by the clinics or the therapists are the ones which are not making any difference to you. And moreover, sometimes they are in a race to complete the targets over the targets, and many times when you try to do the same thing at home, you do not get the results. So I would insist that whenever you have your child progress report, you go to the meetings, first of all, you should insist to have some meaningful goal which makes your child's life easier. So he need not to cry all the time to make him understand. Okay, so choose the goals which are applicable to him. Make sure whatever he has learned in those settings for which you have paid and you put your invested your time and energies on those centers, they are showing those same skills at home. At least they can demonstrate, if not the 100%, at least 80 to 90% they are demonstrating those skills. So most of the times the kids are not able to demonstrate those skills at home because either the skill has not been generalized or it has been taught using the prompts, and those prompts are not faded. So the sooner you realize, so you have to make the discrimination here, why he is not repeating that skill with me. Is it because he is not been familiar, like if I use this other stimuli, if I use the same other object, or if it is me who is delivering the command to him is making the things not working for him, or is it because he was doing with the therapist or the technician because she or he was using some of the prompts which you were not aware of. So they may say that he can use body parts, but when you ask them for the body parts, they may not be doing it. And then later on, when you see their sessions, you see they are giving the gesture prompts, or they were giving him the little nook on their elbows to do that. So all those prompts has not been faded before they claim that the skill has been mastered. So we have to make sure that when the child has been said that he has mastered this, that the skill has been generalized and the skill has been independent. It is prompt free when it has been mastered as master. Okay, when it is marked as masters. Okay. So I would insist that you ensure that your ABA team is working on the meaningful goals, and before marking them as master, they are completely or truly master. So that is one thing you should see. Before I go ahead, I have put everybody on mute this time. So I mean, there's no point of telling you to mute yourself, but you can still put your messages or questions on the chat. I shall pick it up from there. And at the end of this webinar, I share the feedback form, which you can fill it up, because it gives me a good idea to understand what should be my next session. Here, I would like to, after tomorrow's sessions, yesterday's session, which I had with the people over here, I have got some of the feedbacks. I want to clarify one thing here. I am not making ABA therapist out of you. It is not possible that in 1 hour's webinar you can become an ABA therapist. First of all, it takes a lot of practice and the supervision by some of the trained therapists who are certified. Only when they see you work under them, you can be an ABA therapist. The whole point of this webinar is that when I was a parent, I used to struggle a lot to understand what is happening with my own child. You know, I used to take him to therapies. Talking to the case manager was a big task because they were not approachable. They were so busy. And if you talk to the junior most or the person who is working with your child, many times they are not able to convince you why they are doing this, what they are doing that. I mean, you all are the learned people here. So you do not understand the reasoning why they are doing it. And many times you struggle to find the reasoning. If you go to the website or any other pages, there are so many technical jargon is there that you don't understand what is happening, you know, whether you have understood it correctly or not. And you always need somebody who is trained enough or who knows to guide you through. So these are the things which I realized in my journey, that there were many things where, when I wanted to question the therapist, why she is doing that, what is happening with this, why she's not doing that way, why my approach is why my approach is wrong, and why her approach is better than my approach. But I did not have those answers, and neither she did. So then it becomes like, oh, it seems ABA is something new. It is quite a complex thing. It's a complicated thing. I cannot help you, my own child. I have to put them, or I have to trust them, even if you have that gut feeling that no, you should do something to help them out. So that's the whole idea of this, to just to make you aware, so that you, next time your child is attending a seminar or the session with your therapist, you can see what prompt they are using, what kind of prompt they are using, are they fading it on or not, is this the right prompt they are using. So that you can see, or you can question them how they are. Or if your child is not making good progress, you can always question them, why don't you use this prompt? If this prompt is not working, why don't you use this prompt? And once you have this knowledge of prompts, once you understand the whole thing, what can help them to learn better, you can work them with them, and you can ask them, or you can question them why if the skill is not been mastered with so many, let's say 6 weeks or 4 weeks, what is the struggle, why it is not happening. So okay, let's start now. So when we talk about prompts, it will be meaningless to not talk about RLS learning without before I start prompt, I should tell you what is RLS learning. So to talk about prompts without talking about RLS learning is like talking about satellite without talking about astronomy. So they both are very much intertwined. So if you see the technical definition of RLS learning, it is a learning strategy that is in contrast to trial and error learning or errorful learning. So the technique is straightforward and involves preventing clients from making any errors during learning via physical and verbal supports or cues from the therapist. So this line, preventing clients from making any error, this is the beginning of the definition of prompt. So what is the definition of prompt is that it prevents client to make any error. So to find the RLS learning, to get the RLS learning, we have to have the prompts in place. And I'm sure you must have learned this term RLS learning only in this ABA world. So what is this RLS? So you need see all the kids who are on spectrum, they learn through patterns. They are quick to form the patterns. So with our typical kids, nobody has told us that you should work with the RLS learning to make them understand. Okay, in the regular classroom, we haven't, with our typical kids, we never heard about this term, errorless learning. What happens that with our kids, they have got the set patterns to learn the things. So the more the mistakes they make, the more that kind of habit they form, that, okay, I will always approach to it. And secondly, as you know, that all our kids learn through the reinforcer. So every time they make the error, you are depriving them from the reinforcer. So if they don't find the reinforcer, and every time if you are correcting them, so they lose the interest to learn the skill. So you go for the LS learning so that you give them the higher chances or more chance or more frequent contact with the reinforcer. So the more they get in contact with reinforcer, the higher the chances of their learning will become. So when you don't let the child make mistake while teaching them, you are doing two things. First, you are letting them get in contact with the reinforcer faster and frequent. And secondly, you are setting a set pattern that every time if I ask you this thing, this is the card you have to touch. So that since they have this stereotypic behavior that they do the same thing again and again. So once you start building that habit that if I ask you touch dog and this is my correct card, so after 5 or 6 trials, there will be the higher chances that he will touch the correct card rather than going for the wrong card, because you have never let him touch the wrong card. So out of habit, he will touch the correct card. So that will be the first step of the learning. Okay. So that is the main reason. And every time he will make the correct response, you will give him the reinforcer. So that is another way that he will understand, okay, if I do this, I will get the contact with the reinforcers more on the pattern. And so this is the two reasons: avoiding the patterns and getting the reinforcers faster and frequent. How does it help? As I told you that because, see, our kids, when we define autism, we say that it is a social and communication impairment. So this is the social impairment which inhibits their learning. Because you see, with the normal kids, if the teacher claps, if the kids appreciate, or if they stand up and, even those looks on the other kids' face is enough to keep them going. Or if your child has done something better and you have put the WhatsApp status for his or his picture and you get lot many messages and people call them, so that itself is enough to keep them going. That is a motivating factor for them. But with our kids, it doesn't matter. They don't care what you think of them. Okay, so they will learn only the things which is important to them. So they may learn to open a biscuit packet, but they may not learn to open the crayon box, or they may learn to how to open a Pepsi bottle, but they may not push the button of let's say some container which contains the any other free edible items which they do not like, right? Or they may not understand to how to unbutton their pant, but they may do certain other skills which you feel surprised of how could they do that, because they had the driving force of their own motivations. So the autistic kids, they just get driven by their own motivation, the things which matters most to them. So first of all, we have to understand what helps them, what they like or what they do not like. So the things which they like, we put them as a reinforcer. Secondly, since they have the social impairment, they do not care about what others think. We use those things which matters most to them and make them reinforcer that, okay, my feelings or my appreciation may not matter to you, but this particular candy matters to you, right? So every time you do the correct response, I will give you the candy. That is the main reason of errorless learning. That if you are not working for me, you are not working for my clapping. Later on, once they get the pairing with you, they will work for your natural reinforcers, that whether when you smile to them or when you say, oh, wow, you took a great job, then they will do for those natural reinforcers as well. But that too become very limiting. They may be happy with your applauses, but they may not care if somebody else is appreciating them, or if somebody else is just giving them those appreciative look, they may not even look at them. So but since they have got a bond with you, they may look for you for your happiness. So initially when we start teaching them, we use those reinforcers, that we say that you are working this for this candy, so every time you make the correct response, I'll get you this candy. Okay, so this is RLS learning has come to in the world of ABA because our kids are having a very limited social items which they love to work on, for which they can work. Another thing why we go for the LS learning is the instruction control and compliance. So suppose say my child is not coming for the work and I'm asking him, come here, sit here, let's do this, let's do this. But if I ask him, come here, and I bring him here with my instruction, like with the errorless teaching, since I do not want my command to fail. So every time I say, come here, I'll just hold his hand and bring him here. And every time he comes, I'll give him a reinforcer. So that is also, then he understand, okay, every time I come to her or if I listen to her, she gives me some kind of reinforcer. So that is also, so we use errorless learning to achieve that instruction control and compliance. Once it is there, then the teaching becomes easier for us. So it is mainly for getting the instruction control, compliance, easy access to reinforcers, to get those early skills, skill acquisitions. And even sometimes what happens if they have mastered the skills, but still when you are in the maintenance stage, they are not showing you the progress. So then you, again, either you can go for the error correction or you can go for the errorless teaching. I'm not going to explain error correction here because it will be taking a long time. It needs another webinar all in together. So sometimes the child is not falling on the criteria of error correction. So we bring them back to the errorless teaching, even for those skills which they have mastered, because they were not showing them us in a way we were expected them to do. So I have explained you how does it help, and how could we achieve this? We need to have the prompts to achieve this. So let's go again. So there are two types of prompts, response prompts and stimulus prompts. And if we talk about prompts, each of us have had the prompts to learn any new thing. So be it the bike, when you learned cycling for the first time, it was your father who was pushing your carrier from the behind, right? When you first learned the bike. Or when you learn cooking, or when you start doing the cooking for the first time, it was your mother who was giving you those spoonful of masalas with the right measurement, or the chopped vegetables to put on your sabjis, right? And when you learned your piano sir was holding your hands and asking you to press the keys with the right pressure to get the to get the melodious sound of the piano. Likewise, the painting. So if somebody was holding your brush for you, so we all had the prompts for us to learn a new thing. So it's not something. It's not like that your kids on spectrum are having something new than the any other kid. Yes, but since we are working as an ABA team, we want to put emphasis like what kind of prompt may work or what kind of prompt may not work. That's why we have put it into a more detail what all different type of prompts are available to teach the child. So prompts are divided into two categories, response prompts and the stimulus prompts. So when I say response, it is a verb, it's an action. So any prompt which has been given at the time of action is called the response prompt. So suppose say I am learning to draw and you are holding my hand. So this is a response prompt, right? Because my action is writing and your prompt or your help is helping me with my action, with my verb of writing, right? So then it is a response prompt. If the prompt is given at the object level, then it is called stimulus prompt. So let's say, so suppose say my child is learning brushing his teeth. So I am holding his hand and I am brushing his teeth. So that is a response prompt because I am helping him with the brush. Now let's say my son has learned brushing, or let's say even if he hasn't learned the brushing, I ask him, let's go to the bathroom and let's brush your teeth. And I see that every time he takes the wrong toothbrush from the container, he either chooses my husband brush or my brush, right? So this time, just to eradicate that error, I take the permanent marker and I color the brush, the backside of those bristles, the red. And I mark him that, see, this is the brush which you have. So every time he see this third brush, he picks up his own brush. So here I have helped him on the object level. So I have changed the color of the object, the toothbrush, so that he make the right choice. So that is our stimulus prompt, right? I hope I am clear. So stimulus means object. Any stimulus means, and then later is an object. So the prompt which is given at the object level is stimulus prompt. The prompt which is given at the action level is the response prompt. Okay. Let's do some quiz. Okay, so I give you the examples here. Each of you, just those who, I would love that everybody, each of you respond to this. Please don't shy. There's no right and wrong. We all are learning here. So I would be very happy if you, all of you can participate in this quiz. I shall be giving you the case and you have to answer whether it's a stimulus prompt or the response prompt. Okay, let's start. My mother-in-law has sugar Okay, so whenever I make tea for her, I forget to separate her teacup before mixing sugar in the pan. So this time when I went to make tea, she reminds me sternly. She says, remember not to add sugar in my tea. What kind of prompt is that? It's a response prompt because it is my action. She has reminded me on the action. So she has given me a prompt on my action that don't add sugar in my in my tea. Okay. So next one. I don't like to be reminded, especially when the guests are there. Just to ensure that I don't make a mistake next time, I put a red sticker on my sugar canister so that every time I approach to it, it reminds me to separate her cup. What kind of prompt is this? Very good. Only 3 people are responding. Why not all? Please respond. It is a stimulus prompt. Very good. My daughter keeps an alarm to wake her up in the morning. What kind of prompt is this? This is a stimulus prompt. Stimulus prompt is the prompt which is at the object level. So it is the alarm clock which is giving the prompt, right? So it is a stimulus prompt. I open the curtains in her room in the every morning, and that she gets that flooding sunlight in her room, and it breaks her sleep. What kind of prompt is this? It's a stimulus prompt. Why? Because I'm not, the sunlight, the prompt, the sunlight is giving it a stimulus. Sunlight is a stimulus here. Okay, so sunlight is falling on her face and it breaks her sleep, right? So my action of opening the curtain, it could be the response prompt, but I'm talking about the sunlight. So sunlight is a stimuli, which is a stimulus prompt. Okay. I go to her room every morning. I go to her room, and even after doing all this, she doesn't wake up. So I shake her up. I wake her up. What kind of prompt I'm giving here? Very good. This is a response. I'm moving her, and this is a response. I'm so happy that some more people are responding. I would request each of you to please respond. Okay. I see someone raising her hand in this webinar, and I unmute her to speak. What kind of prompt this hand sign is giving me? What kind of prompt that hand sign is giving me? I'm looking at the emoticon of sign. Yes, it's a stimulus prompt because the sign is giving me the prompt to unmute or ask her what she wants to tell me. Yes, Pinky, do you want to say something? You can put on the chat box. Okay. I get calendar notification on my mobile and I join the meeting. What kind of prompt is that? Well done. This is a stimulus prompt because my mobile is a object. It is giving me the prompt to work on the next meeting. Okay. My driver opens door for me. What kind of prompt he's giving me? Pinky, driver is opening the door. That is the underlying statement. So driver opening the door is the response, right? So this is the response prompt. So every time he opens the door, he is giving me the prompt to come sit inside or come outside, right? So this is my action of getting on the car, hopping on or hopping off is on his prompt that he opens the door. So either I'll hop on or hop off. So that is the response he's giving me. Okay, the driver opening the door. That is the response. I look at the clock and then I get ready for my next ABA session. What kind of prompt is that? I see the time and then get ready. Well done. Very good. It's the stimulus. Please, everybody, please respond. Otherwise, there is no point. I'm not a news reader here. Okay. I enter the lift and liftman, listen to this. This is little tricky. I enter the lift. Liftman asks me which floor I want to get down and he presses the button. What kind of prompt is it? This is a response prompt. This is action which brought me in my field, right? Very good. Thanks all to responding for this thing. Very good. Just a minute. Good job. So you are clear so far. So I mean, you have understood what it is all about. Prompt, response prompt, and stimulus prompt. Let's go ahead. Pinky, do you have any questions? I do see your raised hand. Okay. So now let's talk about stimulus. Let's go again on the stimulus prompt. So there are the three kind of stimulus prompts. We have the position stimulus prompt, movement stimulus prompt, and the redundancy stimulus prompt. So what the three differences are only on the stimulus. So we just play around with the stimulus itself to make those prompts very salient. So how we achieve this? So I'll show you. So I have put one slide for all these three. So just don't curse me for that. So for the stimulus prompt, we can have a position prompt, we can have the movement prompt, and we can have the redundancy prompt. So see the position prompt, you see, I am teaching my child to touch dog. I have put the dog card closer to him. So every time, so the two cards are near to me and one card is only near to him, next to him. So every time I ask him to touch dog, he is going to touch the card which is nearest to him. So he touches the dog card. So this is the stimulus prompt. This is the prompt which has been given before I asked him. Okay, so it's not like I kept the cards on the similar position and then I asked him, touch dog, and then I move the card in front of you. Then it becomes a response prompt, because after asking the question, if you are moving your card, then it is the movement prompt which is works on the response prompt, which comes with the category of the response prompt, because you're moving the stimuli for him. But if you have kept the card before asking your question, you have kept the card near to him and you know that he is going to invariably touch the card which is nearest to him, then it is the position prompt. So then it is the stimulus prompt. So always remember the stimulus prompt is given before you ask the question. Okay, so you have put the card near to him, then it is the position prompt. You have changed the position of your card. So here I'm teaching him dog, here I'm teaching him either blue or cloud. So this card is near to him. Which prompt comes from responses prompt? I didn't get your question. Okay, the movement prompt. What happens in the movement prompt? I'm teaching him dog. So before asking him, I'm touching my card. So I'm tapping the dog card and then ask touch dog. And then he looks that I'm giving the spatial attention to that card and he touches that card. So I'm giving the prompt at the stimulus level because I'm touching the stimulus. So it's a movement prompt. Now comes the redundancy prompt. What is the redundancy prompt? So movement prompt could be anything pointing to, tapping, or looking at, or moving the correct response to make it more salient. What is the redundancy prompt? Having one or more stimulus or response dimensions, color, size, or shape paired with the correct response. So here, see, my child knows what the red color is. I'm teaching him reading red. So I put the red here and I marked it with the red. So I have added one more dimension to this. So it is a redundancy. Redundancy means you have added two dimensions to the prompt. Okay. So the color, it was written red already. I have given it one more dimension of the color red. So I know he can identify or discriminate the color red. Since I am teaching him red, I have marked it red again so that he always goes for this. So this is also a stimulus prompt. Here you see I have marked 6 in a green color. Why? Because I am teaching him 3 plus 3 is. Now you see this is very salient. He will go for it because it outstands, right? So he will always make the correct choice. So this is called the redundancy prompt, where I have added the additional dimension paired with the correct response. Okay. Now here again, it is, I'm going too much in technical, but no, we don't use both prompts simultaneously. There is no such hard and fast rule that you should use stimulus prompt, you should use response prompt. It is all depends on the skill which you are picking up, and it depends on your child with whom you are working. So if your child is very good at making the discrimination, you can go for the stimulus prompt. But if your child is not making that first gesture to choose the card, then of course you have to use the response prompt because he has no intention to touch the card itself. So even if you make the stimulus prompt, position prompt, or movement prompt, or the redundancy prompt, he's not giving you any intention to touch, or leave alone touching, he is not even intending to look at the card. So that time you will be taking the response prompt where you will be holding his hand and touching the right card. Okay. So it depends what skill it is. There's nothing like this is good, this is better, this is far better, this you should take, or this you should not take. It is all depending on the kind of the type of child, his learning repertoire or the skills and his interest level. So stimulus prompt can be of two types. A stimulus prompt can be of three types, but they are again the two variations of the stimulus prompt, which is within stimulus and the extra stimulus. Within stimulus is that my stimulus will remain the same, but within stimulus, I will make either I will change the size, shape, or color or intensity of the correct response to make it more salient. And the extra stimulus is I will bring one more extra stimulus to mark the correct one. So later on, you will understand what it is. I'll show you the next slide and you'll get a better idea of this. Three things to be very careful while working with prompt. First, a prompt is the only prompt if it evokes a correct response. So even if you say, oh, I have given him the prompt, but still he's making the mistake, that means it was not a prompt. So the likewise we say for the reinforcer, if they are not making you work, then they are not a reinforcer. So likewise, if the prompt is not working, there is no such thing that prompt is not working. Prompt has to work by nature. So if it is not working, that means it is not a right prompt you are giving. It is not the prompt for your child. It could be a prompt technically, but not the prompt for your own child. And make sure stimulus prompt is the stimulus prompt. Should not be like while giving him the command, while before he starts the response, you start giving the stimulus prompt. Then it becomes the response prompt. Then it is not the stimulus prompt. Okay. And one thing which I cannot stress enough, always prepare to fade off prompts. So you should be very careful while using prompts, because many times our kids do learn with using prompts, but we become so much happy with their learning that we forget to fade off the prompt, and then the skill becomes prompt dependent. Then there is no point of having that skill. Okay. So here I'm showing you how to remove the stimulus prompt. Shilpa, you see the 6 was in another color, so it is a redundancy prompt. So 6 was there, but you have added one more dimension of the green color too. So the child see it is little different, he will go for it. So it's a kind of redundancy prompt. And later you will fade this off. So you see this slide and you'll get an idea how to do it. So here I'm showing you how to do the prompt removal. So it is the fading position. So you see, initially I was kept the dog closer to him. Then gradually I'm taking it uniformly. They are at the same level. So after each trial, I'll be slowly moving it to the same level. So the child can make understand that the prompt is faded. Here I'm not giving him any prompt. This time if he touches the dog when it is in the similar position, then it means he is independent. Likewise, in the movement prompt, I'm tapping right on dog. Okay, before I asked him to touch dog. Later on, my finger, if you see, I'm a little further away. And then when I had to make it totally independent, then I'll not be putting my finger at all over there. I'll be asking him touch dog and he should go for that card dog. You see here the redundancy prompt, we call it shaping. My child can understand what dog means, but I am working on his reading skills. So since I know that he knows the animal dog, so I kept the animal and I put the name, because although I'm working on the reading program, but I still put the image because I know this image helps him to choose the right correct response. Later on, I'm fading off, and at one point I do not have the image of dog and still chooses dog. So that is called the prompt fading. Similarly, is with this red card, it is totally in red, and by the time I have faded the prompt completely, it is black. It's in a natural color. So this is what I was telling within stimuli and extra stimuli. Within stimuli, all the three stimuli are same, but this particular dog, you see the card is little bigger. So initially it is bigger, and then gradually by the end it is of the normal size. So he chooses this. So it is called fading within stimuli. And extra stimuli, that I have put 2 stars on the dog. So he says that, okay, this card has been given the special attention. So this is the correct response. Later on, I moved it to 1 star and then there's no star. So he makes the independent choice. So these are the prompt fading. Okay. Now let's go to this response prompt. That is the main part of this webinar. Anybody has any questions so far? Welcome. So response prompts, we have three type of response prompts: modeling, verbal, and physical guidance. Those who have attended my last sessions on the verbal behavior, they know that verbal behavior can be divided into all these parts. Okay, so that is only this verbal instructions has been again divided into the verbal behavior में जो भी हमने किया था उसी के basis पे whether it could be a vocal or non-vocal, but still means a verbal. So many people confuses verbal with vocal, but that is different. So those who have attended the verbal behavior webinar, they know the difference. They know how they are the same. So response prompt can be modeling, physical guidance, and verbal instructions. So physical guidance, what is physical guidance is that physically I am involved to get the work done or get the response done. So either I'm holding his hand or I'm giving him some kind of physical, he needs a physical help from me to get the work done. So that is called the physical guidance or the physical form. Modeling, as a name suggests, that I'm not holding or touching them physically, but still I am doing something, and it's a kind of imitation that I'm doing something and I'm asking you to do the same, right? So let's say if you know how when you go to some hotels or restaurants or some places, you don't know how to operate the tap. You know, sometimes those people, though they have a kind different type of tap, then you look somebody else who is washing their hands, and then you understand, okay, this is a sensor tap, or this has to be taken it up, or it has to be twisted. So likewise you learn. So that is a modeling prompt. Or they could be the verbal prompt. So you ask me, come here, sit on this chair. So that is a verbal prompt. Okay. So I hope you have got a bigger idea what all is. We'll go into the details, but before that, we'll go to the quiz. There are only 20 participants here. I would request each of you to please respond. If it would have been a bigger audience, I may not have insisted you that much. I'll still respond to these quizzes. Okay. Now what you have to do, see this chart here. You have to tell me whether it's a modeling prompt, it is a physical prompt, or the verbal prompt. Only this you have to do. Okay, you can write P, M, or V as a response. Okay, let's start. You help your child in brushing teeth. You keep brush in his hand and then hold with your hand to do the movement. What kind of prompt is this? It's a physical prompt. It's a response prompt, but we are going into the categories of response prompt here. So it's a physical prompt. Very good. You go to the toilet and you don't know how to operate the sink tap. You look at the person next to you and you do the same what they were doing with the tap. Modeling prompt. Yes, we have taken this example. Your son, whenever he uses the bathroom, he puts water all over the places. So the next time he is going to take shower, you tell him that use wiper in the bathroom after shower. What kind of prompt is that? Verbal prompt. Very good. You went to the Korean restaurant with your husband and you don't know how to use some of the cutlery. You see how your husband is using them and you start using the same way. Yes, this is modeling prompt. Very good. Your daughter never keeps her soiled clothes in the laundry basket. So you put a poster at the back of the bathroom door. It says that don't leave your clothes inside the bathroom, put them in the laundry basket. What kind of prompt is that? It's not modeling. I'm not putting my soiled clothes in the laundry basket and she's copying me. So it's not modeling. I'm not holding her hand and putting her soiled clothes in the laundry basket. So that's not physical. It's not physical. I have put a poster at the back door, at the back side of the bathroom door, which says that put your clothes in the laundry basket. Okay, so that is a verbal instructions or the so it's a verbal written words kind of form. Here it sits here. Okay, let's go to the next one. You are bored in the party and your husband is enjoying that party, but you are very bored in that party. So as soon as you meet the eyes of your husband, you look at him and say, you know, you all must have done this something. What kind of prompt you are giving to your husband? Baby, you are not taking his hand and pushing him outside the door. Okay, so that is not a physical prompt. We're just showing him this eyes gestures, right? So, Dr. Sunal, you went to a party, your husband is enjoying that party, but you are bored, thoroughly bored. So as soon as he looks at you, you start looking at him like this. Or maybe I'm not doing this very well. So this is the gesture prompt. This is the verbal prompt, but this is the gesture prompt. So where the kind of thing which you do with your thing that okay, now enough, let's go out from here. Okay, those things. So that's the gesture prompt. Yeah, I was not very good with my eye thing. I mean those gestures. You ask your son who says woof woof and show him the picture of dog. Which kind of prompt you are using here? I get confused with V. Is it verbal or visual? Yeah, but verbal and visual will come into the same category. Yeah, it is verbal. Visual actually. It is a visual prompt which comes with the category of verbal. Yes. Let's go to the next one. You go to your mom's house and you see all her medicines are scattered everywhere. You put you sort all these medicines, put them in the proper box, and then mark the box before breakfast, after breakfast, before lunch, after lunch. What kind of prompt you are giving here to your mom? Yes, it's a visual, it's a written words, it's a visual. They both come into the same category of the developments. You go to the store and you were having ice cream before entering the store. So, but at the main door, they have kept the poster of a burger with a cross mark on it. So you finish your ice cream before entering to the store. What kind of prompt that poster has given you? Yes, it was a visual prompt because the prompt itself is telling you no food items are allowed inside, right? Very smart people. I love you. Okay. And you start talking in the library, and the librarian says, what kind of prompt is that? Chester. Good, very good. Manual. It's a gesture thing, yeah. I don't understand what you manual. Manual, when you talk about manual, it makes you feel more like a physical prompt, right? So that I'm manually helping him to do this. So you use the word manual when we are physically helping. So it's a gesture. She's not holding my mouth and asking me to shut. She's just giving me the gesture to shut. Okay. Good to go. You're the smart people here. Now, do you want to see the demonstrations or you are good to go ahead? Let me know. This comes in which place? Gesture comes in the verbal form. So known vocal verbal instructions, manual science. Oh, you are right that way, but it was science. So I'm just saying, if you are, manual science is right. Yes, yes, Shilpa, I understand. Sorry for my mistake. Didn't follow it properly. Yeah. There is no good or bad prompt. We'll learn it later. So each of you, do you want to go to see some of the demonstrations? Okay, let me show you the demonstrations. So these are the demonstrations which I did by my own son. You have to tell me which kind of prompt I'm giving here. Okay. So I can be either giving you full physical, partial, modeling, visual, gesture, verbal. You all know this now. And there are few things which is not here. You have to still mark it. Okay, let's go ahead. See this. Brush teeth. What kind of prompt is that? Well done. This is a physical prompt. Look here. Open. Well done. What kind of prompt I have given him here? See it again. See, I have a bottle here. He has a bottle. I am opening my bottle. So the two prompts are here. What are the two prompts? Well done. There's one more prompt I have given. See again.
Fun. Well done.
It was a partial physical also. So as soon as I touch his hand, I'm giving him the physical form. So you see, he was going for my bottle. I put his hand on his own bottle. So it was a partial, not complete modeling. I don't understand what you mean by not complete modeling. He had seen my motion of, yeah, it is a physical and modeling, because I have given him, I make him touch his own bottle because he was touching my bottle. So they were the two forms here. See this one.
Hello. What do you eat? Very good. You eat banana.
Which font is that? Why physical? So he is using the visual. Yeah. So he saw, I am asking you, what do you eat? And I have put a picture of, so yeah, you can say just in a way that, but he had the visual of banana. And then since he cannot articulate properly, he is using his talker to tell me something. So 80% was visual.
Hello.
See this one.
Russia. Russia. Good job.
I have given two prompts here. What are those two prompts? It was partial physical. Yes, it was partial physical. I was not holding it properly, and I was not holding it throughout the time. So I was giving him one more prompt. See it again.
Russia.
Yes, well done. It was physical and gesture. So I was giving him do this, don't do this, do this. Sometimes I'm giving him partial physical, sometimes I'm giving partial and the gesture.
Good job.
Okay, next one.
Very good. Touch shoulder. Well done. Clap hands.
What prompt I'm giving here? Which prompt? Yes, it was gesture. No, I did not do modeling to Hina. I just give him a little gesture. I didn't clap for him. I just give him a little clap. Yeah, this is gestures.
Color this.
Well done.
Well done.
It's not partial physical. My hand is not on his body. It is not partial physical. It was not gesture. I had shown him the color, but it was more like a modeling that I did the coloring and he started doing the coloring after me. Look at this one.
Touch green.
Soham, it was not visual prompt. So what kind of visual? So if I had shown him the picture of somebody coloring the sheet, and he would have started coloring after seeing the picture of somebody coloring the sheet, then it would have been a visual prompt. Here I had not shown him any card, any action of coloring, so it was not visual. Let's do this here.
Touch green.
Which prompt is this? This is not the response prompt. The system response. Which prompt is that? Yeah, the system is which type of stimulus prompt is this? Yes, this is the position stimulus. Good people here. See this.
Very good. Good job.
This was only gesture. I did, it would have been a visual. So don't confuse with the visual. Visual is like, I'm asking him to make the same thing. So it is not a prompt. It was that my question is to repeat the structure which I have made. Okay, so I have to have something to make the similar thing, right? So it was not a visual prompt. Yeah. It was not even modeling. Modeling, it could have been come into the term of modeling if I had made the whole structure in front of him. So if suppose say I say, okay, put this, and put this, and put this, and put this, and he's repeating me after while I am doing, then it would have been a modeling prompt because I am doing it here and he is repeating on it. Then it would have been modeling prompt. But my structures was all done before I asked him to do it. Just repeat, see this again. Yes, this is a gesture.
Very good. Good job.
The red block, he picked up the red block and he did the rest of the things. I just helped him with the red block, right? So it's the gesture. See this.
Who says moo moo? Very good. Come here nicely.
What kind of prompt was that? It was little tricky. I can repeat this for you.
Who says moo moo? Very good. Come here nicely.
I am saying cow, but I'm not bringing that sound out, right? So I am like, it's a kind of gesture. It is a faded verbal prompt. So it would have been a total vocal prompt if I would have said cow. Okay. But my sound is not there. So it is not a vocal prompt. It's not an echoic prompt because my sound is missing. But I'm giving him the faded vocal prompt, which can come into the category of gesture that I am showing him that, okay, good to go. So this is a kind of visual prompt. So many people get confused. So visual prompt is where you just by seeing the visuals, he can change clothes, remove clothes, or wear all these. So this is kind of visual. We don't have much time left. Hope everybody is making some sense to you all guys. So let's go quickly on some of those things. So fading prompt, that is a very important thing. So we all can teach any child with a prompt. So teaching is not a big thing, okay? Even if we would not have been knowing what kind of prompts are available, we could have still worked out something because we learn to teach. Even if you do not know the technical meaning of all these prompts, you could have helped them out to learn the skill. So using prompt to make teaching is not a big deal. Okay, even if you know the name or you do not name. The main important goal is to fade them out. Okay, so what happens? We teach them, but we are so happy that they have learned it that we forget to fade off our prompt, and then they become prompt dependent, that they are not able to reproduce the same skill with new people because they have become so prompt dependent that unless the prompt is given, they are not able to produce those skills independently. Then they are the meaning of the skill has lost altogether. Okay, so every time if I have to remind him, if I have to help him out to give me the right thing, then what's the point of teaching them? Like, you cannot be always hovering around for the rest of your life or rest of their life to get the things done from them, right? So I was reading some blog, so that the writer was saying that every time if you have to tell your child to flush the toilet, so and if even after the natural cue, they are not ready to flush their toilet without you asking them to do, so then it is a prompt. So either if you have, if you are thinking to be there till the rest of their lives to be always reminding them to the flush the toilet, then it's a totally different thing. But if you are wanted to fade off yourself, then you have to make it independent. So either you put up visuals there, or you have to instead of your verbal prompt, they should go to the visual. So you see in the hierarchy, first we start with the partial physical, full physical, partial physical, then we go to the modeling, then we come to the gestures, then the verbal and the visual. Though the verbal prompt is quite good in terms of the ladder of the least intrusive prompt, but still the verbal prompt are the most difficult prompt to fade off, because even with us also, once there are many, like many of you must have seen that every time you have to tell your maid to keep the door open, every time you have to tell your child to keep your shoes outside the door. So these are the verbal prompt, because even the typical people are become so dependent on those verbal reminders. Yes, we always feel tempted because we do not have patience to wait for them to do the actions, and that way we make them prompt dependent, because they know that she can't wait. So just better me wait for 2 minutes. She will anyways going to do this for me. So this is the reason they become very much prompt dependent, because we do not have patience to give them to do it by themselves. So now the question is, how can we achieve prompt feeding? So let's start with the prompt itself. So there's no quick and hard and fast rule how you can achieve the prompt feeding. First, you have to reduce the intensity of the prompt at the same level. So as I was telling you, so who says moo? So my verbal prompt would have been cow. Okay. Then my second faded verbal prompt would be, so I will be, so before jumping from verbal to visual, I will fade the intensity of my verbal prompt. So instead of saying the full cow, I say ka, and then he'll get the clue to say cow. Next time I'll not be saying ka, I'll be saying, or maybe before I say ka, I'll be doing, and then he'll get a clue and say cow. Next time I'll just say ka, and then he'll say cow. And next, and the later on, after being on that prompt for some days or few days, I will be just sitting. Well, will not be giving him any clue. I'll be just looking at him. So by that time, he will understand that I have to produce myself. So he will say cow. So prompts are always faded gradually and systematically. And prompt fading, you can start instead. It's not, there's nothing like that. That one day, one fine day, you decide now I'm not going to give him any kind of prompt. Now he has to be very independent. No, it doesn't happen that way. You should, as soon as you start putting the prompt to teach them, you should start thinking in your mind how I'm going to fade off this prompt. So start with fading prompts gradually and systematically. Start fading the prompt at the same level. So if it is a gesture prompt, start making the gesture little less. So if you are giving the gesture from, let's say, 2 centimeter or 10 centimeter के पास है कि ये छो ये उठाओ, make it yourself little far, so that they can do it, right? And you know the interesting part of these prompts is sometimes we do not know that we are giving the prompt. We become so much used to of the whole scenario that we do not rationalize that we do not understand the fact that we are prompting them, you know. So many times, so I remember when I taught my son how to type his name on his iPad, I was very happy that he can do independently. I don't help him with finding his letters on the keyboard. He can do make you know, he can find the position of the alphabet by himself. He can type his whole name. Then one day I realized that if how I asked him to type his name, I first asked him, what is your name? And then he said, Karthik. I said, oh, wow, good. How you spell your name? Then he'll say Kartik. Okay, let's type your name. And then I say, type K, type A. So then I realized that I'm prompting him to type each letter, right? So he's getting the prompt that type K, type A, and then he was typing it. So one day when I realized it, I just acted as if I'm a stranger, as if he is lost, and I found him from nowhere.
It's 6 o'clock.
Then he said something which was not quite articulated so well that I could understand. Then I offered him my iPad or my mobile, and then since he has got so much, he can find those letters by himself, by the way, on that KWERT by keyboard name. But still, he was looking at me because I was not giving him the prompt type K, type A. And that is the time when I realized that, oh, I mean, it was all prompted. So it was like he cannot type his name because he still was looking for me to give him the help. So even if, like, if you are a knave, if you find a child somewhere, and if you, first of all, if he gets your mobile, first of all, you will not be very sure what they are going to type. If they make some readable name, then probably you can make the guesses, okay, this might be his name or his father's name or his mother's name. But suppose they make some mistake, like suppose instead of making Kartik, he missed Tartik or Hartik, then probably people will not even put the energies to understand whether it's a name, it is a mistake at first letter or second level or third level. Okay, so the whole purpose will go, the whole learning will be nullified, right? So you have to be very careful to see if the prompts if the skill which you claim has been learned by your child, if it is the prompted skill or not. So it is already 1 hour now, so I just quickly take another 5-10 minutes to wind it up. So prompts are faded gradually and systematic. Prompt fading happens at the similar level where you started. So you start fading the intensity, and then you go ladder up or down, and then you test the competency of your child. Okay, so we can go from most to least or least to most. They know such right way or wrong way. And the last thing is time delay. That after, when you think, okay, I have done to this ladder, I have come to this visual, when you have to put a set criteria that for 3 days I'll give him to this prompt. After 3 days I will test him to the prompt at the lower level. So if I was giving him the prompt at the modeling, for 3 days I'll make him work at the modeling prompt. After 3 days I'll not give him any modeling prompt, I'll go to the gesture prompt. If he gives me the correct response with this gesture prompt, then good, well and good, you are on the correct path. But if he is not giving you the correct response on the gesture prompt, then you'll go back on the modeling prompt and you work little more, and at the same level you will try to fade off yourself. So if your modeling was, let's say, if I'm teaching him how to make the block, so if my modeling was for all the 5 blocks, so next time I'll be making the modeling of 2 blocks or 1 block or 4 blocks. Okay, so I'll be losing the intensity here, and then again after 3 days I'll again test him on the gesture prompt. And the main important part is time delay. You should always give them the time to respond. Many times we are so, each of us in such a hurry to do the things, and especially with our kids on spectrum, that we just give that 2 seconds. 2 seconds में करके देखो, ठीक है नहीं आया मैं करती, this all done. Okay. So our kids takes time. So you should be patient enough to give them that time delay, and be very alert that you are giving them the time delay. What happens that we are always so impatient as a human being that we give the time delay. We think of the time delay 2 minute भी हमें 20 मिनट जैसे लगते हैं. Within 1 minute we start giving them the prompt. Then the child learns कि कुछ नहीं करना है, बस ऐसे खड़े रहना है. She is going to help her out. मतलब वो अपने आप ही कुछ कर ले. So in that way we are giving them the wrong learning. कि ठीक है तुम भी कुछ मत करो, मैं भी कुछ नहीं करूँगी. We will both look at each other for certain time, and then I am going to do that. So when you are working on the time delay, make it a pure time delay. 2 सेकंड तक कुछ नहीं होगा, कोई कुछ नहीं करेगा, बच्चा भी कुछ नहीं करेगा, आप भी ऐसे छटपटाओगे नहीं कि बस हाथ हिल रहे हैं या सारे मतलब कि ऐसे से हाथ दिखा रहे हैं उसको कि ये कुछ नहीं, बिल्कुल टोटल म्यूट. Okay, and then you will start seeing where to go ahead from there. We all use model prompts for Zumba and yoga and even the gesture prompts. So I don't have time for all this. I have shared all these things on my WhatsApp group. Those who are there, they must have everything available there, so they can read it from there. These are good things to go, but since we are running out of time, so I just go for this few of the pros and cons of the most to least. So for most to least wale, the question can come ki why, when I should take most to least wala approach and when I must take least to most wala approach. Most to least wala approach we take for the skills which are very new into their skill repertoire. So जो भी life skills होते हैं, like if I have to teach them how to bathe themselves, so I have to take the full physical से partial physical पे जाऊँगी. But if my child is a quick learner, if my child has shown me some of the skills, उसके जो भी मुझे whatever the skills I'm going to teach them, some of the skills are present in this repertoire, then I will not be taking most of these. Then because I know that if suppose say if I am teaching him tracing, but I know he can hold a pencil because he has scribbled a lot. I know he can make a few lines. Then I'll not give him the most wala approach where I'm holding his complete hand. I'll be giving him a gestures here because I know he has some skills in his. So you will be judging your child as per your child level. You will be giving him the prompt, and as per the complexity, convergence of your task also you will give him the prompt. If the task is very complicated, the chances of failing is higher, then you will be giving it the most prompt, because the whole idea is to keep them successful, so that the learning can keep happening, so they have the interest. We don't have much time, so this is the last part, data sheet. We have already taken too much of time. So okay, so this is the data sheet. So how do you know that when to assess the prompt and when to fade this off? for everything which you are teaching them, you will have this kind of data sheet. You can write in the plain paper also, that when I ask him, he gives me the correct response without any prompt, or he gives me the correct response with a gesture prompt, or he gives me the correct response with a modeling prompt or the physical prompt, and then see which kind of prompt works better for him, and then start feeding it off from that level. Any questions here? Please put on the chat. We have to work on ourselves, Rishan, because it happens with me also. I feel so much tempted to prompt them. It is we are such a impatient souls. So how do you know whether your child is feeding on prompts or not? The very first thing is that if you feel that my child knows it, but he doesn't do in front of you, he doesn't do the same skill while you are not there, it means he is prompt driven. It means somewhere you are giving in the prompt. So, you know, sometimes we give the child to coloring. We are not helping them at all, but still they will not color unless or until we sit with them. So that is also partial physical. हमारी physical presence के बाद ही वो कुछ कर रहे हैं, right? The moment I am in the kitchen and I give them the colors, do the coloring, and then I am working on the kitchen and he is not coloring, then what this tells, that the coloring activity is prompted. He is not independent enough. So you have to, how you will know whether the skill is prompted or not, just try to keep yourself at a certain distance, matlab 2 feet, 1 feet, 4 feet, and then see if they can do that skill all them by themselves without you moving ahead or doing any kind of tool. If they can do it with the distance of 2 feet or 4 feet, they are independent. If they could not, they are independent. Now you have to find which kind of prompt you are feeding them. Okay, guys. Now this is my last thing. So some of you had approached me in past, and they have given me the personal message if I take the training sessions. Yes, I do. I do the parents training as well as I take the ABA sessions for the kids. I live in Bombay. I do not have any center as such. I used to live in Gurgaon, but I have moved to Bombay recently. I shall be opening something by this year and most likely. But as of now, I do the teletherapy sessions. I do take parents training sessions, and I do take ABA session for kids on Zoom. So you can take the screenshot of this, or you can send emails to me. I do not have a team of people who works with me. I'm the only one who imparts the therapy, and I take the sincere parents who are ready to work as a team with me. So since I don't take many sessions, I have a son on spectrum. So I want only the sincere parents to come and work, because then only we can make it successful. Before you all start going away, this is my feedback form. I would request each and every each of you to please fill this up, and that I should be very happy if you can get your feedback. Thank you so much, everybody, to be here. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Kirti.